Oh, yes, everybody. This is the very first Seahawks Uncovered podcast on the Undroppables Podcast Network. I am Flex Matt. He is Brandon Adam. But before we go into anything for Seattle news, let's get our intro video, Brand. We had a little bit of say in this. I'm excited to kind of unveil it. So we are the Flex Network. They are the Undroppables, and we bring you Seahawk news. And not just Seahawk news, but we had this thing, Brandon. We were talking about it, and we were saying, what do we want to do? And it's like, well, you had said to me, and it's like, well, we don't necessarily want to be on here talking X's and O's. It's not really what we want to do. And then I said, okay, I'm kind of smelling a little bit of what you're dropping down here, fella. And it's for fans by fans. And I mean, the idea behind us and what we want to do is we want to have a place for fans to come on here, maybe talk a little smack. The Uncovered network from the Undroppables has 3 of the 4 NFC West teams, so we can have little battle podcasts. That would be fun, right, Brandon?
It would be. I can't wait for those weeks. That's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, we can bring those losers on and talk about
exactly. All these haters.
Yeah, if you're a Seahawks fan right now and you're listening in or you're seeing what we're doing, listen, go to the Undroppables, and if you're not subscribed, you're wrong. Okay, go subscribe. And then go find the 49ers content, and also go find the Cardinals content on there, and write a nice little comment and say,
there
you suck, from the boys at the Flex Network, because that's us. You can follow us at the Flex Network 1. But Brandon Adam, how are you doing, buddy? Tell the people who you are. Let's in our inaugural episode, who are we? I mean, what are we doing here?
I think we're just super fans, and we've been doing a podcast together for fantasy football, and some of the relationships we've established over here at the Undroppables have given us this opportunity to come over here, and no other than Flex Matt and I are massive Seahawk fans, and we've been big Seahawk fans for a while now. And when Jax Falcone asked if we could do some Seattle content, that was a no-brainer to jump in on the Undroppable bandwagon and bring some good fun and some spicy takes, some opinions that we think is going to happen, not necessarily what some of these bigger pundits may be. That we are fan-based kind of guys, so we think kind of like fans. So I want to kind of address things kind of from that angle instead of trying to, trying to break everything down in its complete nuance. Let's talk about the overall philosophy of what's about to be happen here in 2024.
Yeah, let's make it fun. Let's come out here. I cracked me open a Modelo. You know what I mean? I cracked me open a Modelo. I didn't know if I had one. I found one in the back of the fridge. It seems like that's exactly what the 49ers are going to go and do. So they find people at the back of the fridge, and then they chart them out there as Super Bowl quarterbacks. But last year, if you remember, Mike Macdonald stumped Brock Purdy. Stumped Brock Purdy last year. And I got to tell you, if you hear that, Brandon, do you hear it? There's a drum beat coming out of Seattle right now. And I will tell you right now, it is the biggest. I mean, the most hype. I mean, when Pete Carroll came to the Seahawks, we were hyped. But I mean, it wasn't like Pete was going to bring something so special to the Seahawks other than just he was a winning coach. He knew how to recruit. Culture, knew how to recruit guys from college, and it's different this time around. Mike Macdonald is being hailed as the defensive guru to of all time. I mean, this guy is going to, and the key word I want to put on this podcast and for what we are going to do as Seahawks this year, disguise. I think disguise.
Thank you.
Is a great, word. Disguise. Okay, because Mike Macdonald might line up one way. You see it one way. You might have saw it in first quarter, second quarter, but it's different now. It's different now. And all of a sudden, oh, gee, I got it. And then we get to you. We got pressure coming down on you. And it's great. And then on the other side, Ryan Grubb, disguise. Again, we may line up in the exact same formation 55 times a game. I don't know if that's a real number. I just picked a high number there. 55 times a game. And Greinberg, what's going on, buddy? Yes, go get that. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're a fan of the Seahawks right now, you go and you go to the Undroppables YouTube page, you subscribe, okay? Because if you aren't subscribed, you're wrong. That is wrong. And then you go find the 49ers content, you find the Cardinals content, and you write a comment saying you suck from the Seahawks guys over on the other show. I'm just, all in good fun. We hope to have a battle podcast. I think that was a little bit of what, Greinberg's been, kind of cultivating here on the Undroppables podcast network is, hey, we'd love to get, yes, do it. You know what I mean? Go comment. Yes. What we want to do is we'd love to get those guys on. Hey, if we're going to go up against 49ers twice a year, we want to see those guys. We want to have the podcast up. A little bit about what to look forward in the future. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Flex Matt. We've been podcasting for what seems like 8-9 years now. We did stuff for Player Profiler. We did stuff for Roster Watch. We've done stuff with RotoWire, DFS Army, the inaugural team. I say the inaugural a lot, but the inaugural group of the Flex Network was Alan Seslowski, me, and Shane, Sugar Shane, who you might see. So what's up? Again, Greinberg's in the chat. Greinberg, go to the 49ers page. Tell them they suck, okay? That's what we want to do this year. But that's who we are. We've been podcasting for a while. We do daily fantasy football stuff over right now for DFS Army. We're out here. We're doing some stuff. We've been invited. You were on the Jax Falcone podcast. You did about an hour and a half, which is incredibly tough to do with Jax Falcone, the great mind that Jax Falcone is. And he said, hey, are you guys interested in doing something? I said, of course we are. You know what I mean? We're Seahawks fans. We're boys. I live up in Seattle. You don't. I feel like a lot of people cover teams. They don't live in the teams. I live here. It's really great. I know some other people in the industry that do live here as well. I'd love to get them on the podcast. But we are here to talk about Mike Macdonald and Ryan Grubb and the influence that they will have on our team, the Seahawks, this year. And again, Brandon, you can hear it. Okay, it's a groundswell. Okay, what's happening in Seattle, the drum beat for Ryan Grubb and Mike Macdonald is something special, and you can hear it. You can hear it right now. I'm about 35 minutes out from Seattle. I can hear it. Okay, I can hear it. And if you just be quiet for just a second, no, that's not somebody breaking into your house. Okay, that's a drum beat coming out of Seattle for Mike Macdonald. Brandon, what do you think about Mike Macdonald? I mean, what was your first impressions of oh, hey, we signed Mike Macdonald? It's like, okay, what'd you think?
I think when it was happening, I was thinking maybe we would go after a bigger name for an offensive side of the football. But when they went and stuck it out and waited and courted Mike Macdonald and made it pretty clear that was the Seattle's plan, no matter what, Mike Macdonald is our guy. And when you come to find out later after the hiring, a lot of these bigger in the know coaches start coming out about Mike Macdonald, start talking about this is the next young mind in the NFL. And like you said, Baltimore Ravens put a major clamps on the 49ers. And I think Seattle took notice of that.
And us last year.
And us. And I think
they got us.
They took big notice of that. And I think the way everybody is describing Mike Macdonald is that he is the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay of the defensive side of the football. And the way he calls defenses is kind of how they OC the offense. They actually don't show anything pre-snap. Everything that they do is post-snap, and they, like you said before, there is going to be there might be early in the season we could see a little bit of some scheme breakdowns because to run this defense, they are going to have to be communicating at an extremely high level, and they got to do it fast and on the fly. So I expect them to kind of be a little bit clunky starting it going. But by midseason, I think Mike Macdonald is going to have these guys organized, and he's going to have Devon Witherspoon just fly into the football, and all these DBs and safeties that we got that can tackle are key when we look at what was wrong with our team last year. Our team was 31st against the run. That is not Seahawk football. That is not Seahawk football. That hasn't been Seahawk football. That's pretty awful. So if Mike Macdonald can use our safeties that we have and these corners to blitz into run fits like he was doing with the Ravens, I think we're going to end up having a substantial jump in NFL rankings when it comes to certain stats pertaining to defense and defending the pass as well.
Let's talk about rankings for a second. Spoon was just snubbed on the NFL's top 100. I get it. He didn't play a full season, but he was electric, and that's okay because I love that. I love not giving Spoon what he deserves because that's just going to make the guy wake up hungry. Also love Byron Murphy. Yeah, who doesn't love Byron Murphy? The way, I mean, he's trying to be extorted a little bit. You know, everybody's got a little extortion in them, you know, when they're coming first in camp right now, guys like Byron Murphy. We love Byron Murphy. We love Byron Murphy at Texas. Really, really, really thought that he was not going to be there when we got a chance to draft him.
Not a chance in hell I thought he was going to be there.
And Sean McVay wanted him. I mean, that would be too easy, right? Just go from one to another. You thought it was going to be easy like that. You guys hit on Puka Nacua, which if you followed our fantasy football content, I talked about Puka Nacua before anybody ever drafted him, which Jax Falcone did too, which was big. Okay. And I didn't talk to him as extensively as I could have, should have, but definitely he was on the radar. When we came out in that week 1 game, I was there in the stadium. I was on the visitor side. That's where our company season tickets are. And I was sitting there watching Puka Nacua destroy us. You know, zone. Okay. And this is what we want to get into here. I'm not necessarily trying to talk X's and O's. We want to be a fan podcast here. I'm not trying to sit here and say that, but last year, when we're comparing the Ravens defense and ours, I mean, it was almost night and day, right? I mean, we were incredibly bad at almost everything. We ran the most zone defense in the league. I want to say Ravens were a little bit less. I mean, only 71% zone, but it's definitely a lot different when it comes to man coverage. Okay, so we were only 13% man coverage. Baltimore 24.5. Okay. So we didn't trust we didn't trust the guys, or we didn't trust the schemes, or we just flat out were getting outplayed. Okay. Now our offense was about 17th in the league. So it wasn't really our offense that was doing too incredibly bad. It was our defense. It was the lack of tackling. Reek Woolen, there's video out there of and it's not an effort thing. I don't believe it's an effort thing. I think he hustled to the play a lot, but just not look too good. Bobby Wagner looked cooked out there. We love Bobby. Okay, we're not going to hate on Bobby. Just didn't look too great. Never. Didn't look too great. The scheme didn't seem to fit the talent that we had. Boye Mafe had a great year. What's a little bit alarming, haven't heard much about Boye Mafe coming out of camp. Okay, I don't know. It takes time for guys to kind of learn Mike Macdonald's system, but this is again the word we're going to go for today is disguise. Okay, so Mike Macdonald is pretty classically known for showing one. So let's say it's cover one, man outside, or something like that. So it'll have that look all the way up until it doesn't. And then he'll snap right out of it. Maybe he'll roll into full zone coverage or all man coverage, or maybe we'll blitz somebody off the end. The thing is, it could look man and we're shifting to zone. It could look zone, but we're shifting to man. The thing that is the most concerning about Mike Macdonald's defense is that he likes to run a lot of 7-man defense. Okay, so essentially what that means is we only got 7 people in the box. Last year, Seattle liked to run a lot of 8-man defense, so we got an extra defender in the box. We were still getting cooked. Defender in the box. So I'm a little nervous about that. Okay.
Yep.
I'm a little nervous about having one less player in the box to help stop the run. But the Mike Macdonald scheme seems to bail people out. And what does Mike Macdonald love? Athletes.
Yes.
Okay, Geno Stone, 7th round pick or something like that, ends up getting signed for a pretty good safety contract. Interestingly enough, we didn't sign any of those guys. Patrick Queen, Geno Stone. Is it one because the guys actually aren't very good for his system, and he just made the best out of what he had? Or do you think that those guys are too expensive? But then
they were too expensive.
Well, he comes here and he pays Love. He pays Love. Sorry, I forgot his first name off the top of my head.
Julian Love. Yes.
God, Jordan Love, Julian Love getting paid. It's got me all over the winks here. Comes here, pays Julian Love a lot of money. And you know what that means to me is he comes in. It's like Geno Stone, nah. Maybe these other guys, nah. Justin Simmons, nah. But comes in, sees Julian Love, sees what he can offer, says, yes, this guy can fit my scheme. Let's go ahead, get out there, pay him, nab him up before we lose him. Okay, because we might lose him. And what do you think about Julian Love? You like him? I think I love him.
I think he's a good space player. I think what is key with this scheme is that we need athletes that can think on the move and rotate at an instant and be on a string and be able to make run fits. And getting another addition safety as well as Rayshon Jenkins from the Jags, I think that was a quality tackling safety that we're going to be running in our nickel and dime packages as a linebacker possibly, so we can actually have more athletes on the field. So that is the biggest thing I've noticed with the signings that we've gotten with the Jerome Baker from the Finns, Rayshon Jenkins, Julian Love, slightly undersized, but extremely good athletes that can move in space and move side to side. And that I think Mike Macdonald thinks that are smart enough to be able to adapt on the move at whatever they're reading and whatever call sign that is coming from the sidelines to the helmet for them to be able to adjust. So I think from what the pressers are saying, Mike Macdonald is saying everything is starting to take hold right now. They're done kind of they're not ramping up. They are moving within the scheme now in camp. And so that means to me that they are starting to click and they're starting to actually play on a string a little bit and be able to make these run fits. And I think that's the biggest deal with this defense is the way they run fit with the corners and safeties off the edges and blitz with the secondary. They do that quite well over at the Ravens. And guess what? Spoon is sick when he gets a chance to go sack the quarterback and be able to go get a TFL. That guy can tackle. So I'm excited for Tariq Woolen to actually have a bounce back. Sounds really like that guy is working his tail off. Mike Macdonald went all the way up to the point of saying this guy's on a mission to really get back to form. And he didn't want to give him too much praise in the press. And I'm excited to see that because that means he wants Tariq to keep earning it. And I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, something that's really great about Byron Murphy is he's hyper athletic for his size.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So you would imagine okay, can he sit in and be a tank? Yeah, even though he's small, 6 foot, it's 299.
6'3".
He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot. Okay, he's small. Mm-hmm. He's small, but he plays big. Okay, small plays big. He can anchor in. He can bust out. Thing about Mike Macdonald is he might line up in a 4-man front, and he might pull the D tackles out to being linebackers as we bring the linebackers up to be part of that 4-man front. It's a pretty crazy scheme. I mean, I'm still trying to learn it. I was watching some videos, which I have been doing, and the thing is, I saw some things where Patrick Queen was lined up as a safety. And then all the way until pre-snap, he so guys starts trickling in, and then shit. I'm like, what the fuck is Patrick Queen doing all the way back there?
Exactly.
Okay, and
that's the difference.
And then our Tyrell Dodson, Jerome Baker, you thought the injuries were gonna maybe hold them back a little bit. They were out there, first padded practice, ready to go. There was it seemed like they were not being held back. Tyrese Knight, our 3rd-round draft pick, being able to play out there, which means that, hey, Mike Macdonald really likes what they got going on over there. Blitzing into the run is another thing that I think is really important. So it's not just the scheme sometimes. I mean, obviously you can disguise things, and he is the master of disguise. Okay. He's turtley enough for the Turtle Club, if you get that reference. Okay. That's the old school reference. But he's the master of disguise. So even outside of the disguise, he is also a mastermind, not just master of disguise, in trying to vet out other offenses. Like I said, he stunned Brock Purdy week 16 last year because he pretty much knew exactly what was going on. And when you are that type of person, because you're so dominant on your defense, you can really start to, and this is why Mike Macdonald plays 7-man defense. There's only 7 in the box because he trusts his reads. He trusts his scheme. He trusts that his guys are going to be athletic enough to make up for it. That screams Rick Woolen to me. I mean, which is exactly what he is. His coverage speeds, his recovery speed is unreal. But being able to blitz into the run is, when done properly, last year was significantly more effective than how the Seahawks were running an 8-man box and still losing. Okay.
It's still getting crushed, like at a crazy rate.
Crushed. Mike Macdonald, the last time we've seen this, Sean McVay sold out for a Super Bowl, right? I mean, I don't see us selling out because Mike Macdonald and the Ravens organization has always been known for drafting really well. Okay. They may not draft the prettiest guy, right? That's not necessarily them. Also, they've been having to draft on the backside of, 15 to 20 even for the last however many years. And they've been able to stay relevant in the top end of that division for a while. I mean, obviously when you hit on Lamar Jackson, it's and probably had nothing much to do with him, but hitting on a player like that allows you to be able to really, extend your team and do a lot of things. As we transition into the offense, because these podcasts aren't necessarily supposed to be 3 hours long, Brandon, like we're sometimes accustomed to doing, but transitioning to the offense, the one thing I got to say is, does Geno kind of remind you of like Michael Penix? I think I said this to you a little bit. Michael Penix is not necessarily known for his run game. Geno Smith not necessarily known for his run game. Michael Penix seems to be really good in shotgun. Seems to be able to read a good defense. Seems to be able to launch the ball. I think Geno Smith can do that. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if Michael Penix gets a lot older, because he's still pretty old, and he kind of, maybe doesn't end up winning the starting job, maybe ends up being a backup for about 10 more years, ends up getting traded to a team like Seattle, gets a starting gig, and then ends up being as good as Geno. Can't you see like that we're in a Michael Penix time warp here with Geno Smith?
It was supposed to happen in the draft, and it didn't. I'm unfortunate for Seattle. Didn't make it. Penix didn't make it out of the top 15. So it's just, yeah, man, Geno Smith is exactly the same kind of fit. They attack very similarly deep down the field. The weapons that we got kind of match up with what Ryan Grubb, the OC for the Seattle Seahawks, loves to run. We've been a predominantly shotgun team last year. So I think that even goes to a higher rate this year. You were, before the pod, you were talking about certain things on formations of what Grubb loves to do in college football, with the way they use boundaries and how they have talent set up out there. Do you want to kind of jump into that a little bit about what that is and explain that, what Ryan Grubb tries to do all the time?
Well, he does a lot of things. So one, modern seems to be another name that I'd like to go. Disguise and modern. What's kind of cool about Ryan Grubb is, and I think that he's not getting as much press as Mike Macdonald is. Obviously, Mike Macdonald, the youngest coach in the league, right? He's the head coach, so obviously Ryan Grubb's not going to get as much of the play. But Ryan Grubb and Mike Macdonald, in my personal opinion, are the exact same person on the opposite side of the ball. And I think that's why. I mean, you got to understand, Ryan Grubb has traveled with Kalen DeBoer for the Huskies, for the freaking Nevada team, Fresno State. I don't know if that's Nevada. I think it might be Nevada. It might be California.
That's
Fresno
Northern Cal.
Okay. But he traveled with Kalen DeBoer. Now, Kalen DeBoer ends up going up to Alabama, and he's like, Ryan Grubb, come on with me to Alabama. Are you kidding me? To be the successor to Nick Saban over there in Alabama? I mean, they could have potentially been going for years and years and years. But I think one thing is the NIL. Okay, Saban wants out. A lot of coaches don't like that because now it's not about recruiting; it's about paying these kids, and it's going to end. So I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit easier in the NFL when you have to deal with just draft picks and stuff like that. But maybe it's also the opportunity to be in a Mike Macdonald led Seahawks team with the type of weapons that we have on offense. And you had mentioned it earlier, where a lot of guys coming back or to life, it seems like. Ken Walker's one big one that you're going to see. And I say this in fantasy football, if you play it, whatever, go buy Kenneth Walker, buy him. If it doesn't hit, come to me, because he's a top 10 back in the league, guaranteed. And I don't even think it's like debatable. At this point, there's not more than 9 running backs that I want on my team than Kenneth Walker, and that's a guarantee. But now let's talk about our 3 receivers, right? The best trio in the league, and you can fight me on that for any other trio out there, okay? And
yes,
Ryan Grubb. So, well, you had mentioned about formation into boundaries. So, FIB is what they call it. I'm learning a lot more of this now that you have to with Ryan Grubb, okay? We're not like out here trying to hope for the best. And it's like, no, Ryan Grubb's got schemes. If you really want to know it, you got to try to learn it. And that's the only way around it. So essentially what it is let's say the ball's on the left hash, right? Well, you might want to spread your whole offense out from the field, but no, what Ryan Grubb really likes to do, and I'm not saying the whole time, I want to say it's like 40% of the time or something like that. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but he'll line up the majority of the offense bundled up to the formation, or to the if it's on the left hash, we'll line up the bulk of the offense on that left hash. So let's say maybe they'll bunch formation to the left, which is the shallower depth of the field to the boundary on the left side. Then what they'll do is they'll put a single receiver, maybe a slot guy, but a single receiver out wide. And why do you think they do that, Brandon? Maybe you know the answer, but why do you think? Let's just put that out there.
Because if having a bunch set and unbalanced formation forces the defense to roll coverage to that side, so you end up getting single coverage on the outside for that single wide receiver that's supposed to beat man coverage when they get that look. Is that correct? Or
zone, right? So it doesn't matter what it's called over there, but you're effectively correct. You're gonna maybe go 2-on-1 or 1-on-1 over there with a guy like Odunze, or you're gonna go 2-on-1 with Jalen Polk or McMillan, or for us, I think it's going to be Lockett that's actually going to end up being out there more often than not.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that, we've seen a lot of Odunze doing that in college. And I'm not saying that Odunze doesn't do that, but I think Odunze fits and meshes better when you think about your number 1 receiver, right? And you're talking about rolling coverages to bunch sides, which makes sense. But you also got to roll over some of your better players to kind of match up with the better players on that side. DK Metcalf's our number 1 receiver, and I don't think there's a question or concern about that. Now, is DK a top 15 in the league? I'm going to say yes as a Seahawks fan. I think it's arguable, but I love DK, and I think he's been chained. He's been
underutilized.
100%. Underutilized, chained up in a cage. My guy's an animal. He's
let the guy eat, bro. Give him 10 looks.
At least
give him 10.
But the reason why is when you're running out there, it's easy for Geno, and that's the cool part. It's going to be easy for Geno to pre-snap read, hey, I got at least a coverage benefit for me on this outside guy. So no matter what you guys think you want to try to stop us doing on this side, if I got a go route or if I got an in route or a slant, and it feels like we got the coverage benefit on the outside, it's just going to go there. That's just where the read's going to go. Get the ball in your playmaker's hands. And go ahead.
Yeah, and with the FIB, with those, the rate of teams that do that in the NFL generally are around 12 to 15% at the high at the high, and people that are, or teams that are at the top of that list are Miami Dolphins. That's the kind of offense that this is going to be more looking like. And if that's the case, my God, if we are able to get DK attacking downfield like a Tyreek Hill and being able to run efficient, explosive plays with a Ken Walker like a Devon Achane, wow, this offense is going to be explosive. We have the personnel to do it. It really just came down to play calling, and I think it was a fight behind the scenes of old school Pete Carroll versus these three phenomenal wide receivers that we got, and we got this great back that kills it at a shotgun. And Pete wants to run power. Pete wants to run it down off tackle. Pete doesn't want to get it to the edges that much. So it was a fight of philosophy, and that's why we kind of changed over. But with Ryan Grubb in college, the average for FIB plays was in the high teens. Grubb was in the neighborhood of 26 to 28% of the time. He was in these plays, in these schemes, and he kept exposing teams because I was listening to a quarterback talk about defending this, and they were talking about or watching tape on these plays with Washington, and it was because they're going to line up in the same formation, but in practice for these teams, they only have a couple looks per formation. And once you run out of looks that are predetermined throughout the week, then defenses have no idea what to do when we go into our third, fourth, fifth, sixth variation of that formation, of this very same look, coming off of this look with the FIB. And so that is why this is such a massive jump. And that's why some NFL people are saying Grubb might do this too much. And is there enough room with the hashes the way they are in the NFL to have the space to be able to run that many plays with that tight of space? But I think they can do it. All it takes is communication and being able to execute. And it seems to me that Grubb and the way Mike Macdonald and Grubb coach, they simplify things and they make it easy for their players. And everything that's coming out of camp, that's pretty much what all these guys are saying, is that the way they digest information throughout camp and the way these coaches break these things down into learning blocks, it's very planned out. It's very well done. And it seems like these guys are getting it.
So scheme versatility is how essentially Ryan Grubb and Mike Macdonald's defense and offense work. So essentially how you can get by with running so much of the same formation is every receiver gets to understand each role. Or same thing, like your linebackers, they can start to understand the lines role. They can start to understand some of these coverage roles. And so now let's say every person on your offense or every mover on your defense, depending on what scheme you might be in, knows 3 or 4 different responsibilities. So now what we're doing is we're lining up in the same offense or the same play or the same formation every time. And the defense can start to say, okay, or the offense, Brock Purdy could do the same thing, right? Oh, I seen this earlier in the game. Yep. They're going to run the man off this scheme, so I'm going to catch a zone beater or a man beater or whatever it may be. Then all of a sudden, we're flipped because now the guy you keyed in, maybe the Mike, is not dropping coverage this time. Now he's going to blitz all of a sudden.
He's coming.
And so that's why this FIB stuff really works. And also, what we want to do is we want to bunch formations up on that short side. So we have a lot smaller area to work with. And what happens when we do that is natural picks. Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is why I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a dominant highlight in this offense, because usually what will happen, and a lot of other schemes, are we have specific routes these guys are going to run based on which play call we have or formation it is, and then that's the play. And then we have 50 plays we're going to call a game. And so maybe when we come back to that play, because we think it's going to work on 3rd and 8, the defense had seen it before. Okay, so they're bunched left. We got an outside guy. He's just going to run a post route. We might be able to, we might be able to shade a little bit, but here we're seeing that Jackson got us deep on this. He's going to run a slot fade on this. But what's nice is they have a lot of option plays and what they call choice routes. Okay,
yes,
that's what will change every bit of our scheme. And so let's say you're on the inside of that bunch formation. You get to run what you want. I mean, you're going left, you're going right. Maybe you're hitting a fade. It's all based on what the defense is giving you. How can you scheme against that as a defense? Oh, just play zone maybe. I mean, because that way there's no other way. I just hope to catch him. Like, no.
Yep.
Jackson's going to feast on this side, and especially when you're having to defend all 3 areas of the field. You're having to defend the short, intermediates, and the deeps almost every single play. But we cannot, and this is the biggest thing, and it just seems to be the Seahawks plague is line play.
Yep.
How does this offense work of Ryan Grubb's where the offensive line isn't good? Okay, so that's a big deal. And I think what you had mentioned earlier with, is it going to work on a condensed field? That's one concern that a lot of people in the NFL have. Obviously, much wider hashes in college, right? So much more space. And then the talent level difference. Obviously, you have the top, in my opinion, they had the top 3 receivers on one team last year with McMillan, Polk, and Odunze, and now you got it again. So in my opinion, the scheme's going to be very similar. But with the condensed field, do the routes work as well? Do the picks? Maybe the picks will work better as far as natural pick plays, but will you be able to catch this much yardage of space maybe on the right side, or will you be too bundled up on the left side if that was the case? But let's go back to the offensive line. I think Charles Cross is going to have a breakout year this year.
Yes, thank you. I think you're Charles Cross is a savage. We missed him immensely. We had some big time injuries last year. The line play was suffering. You could see it that we couldn't run through the middle with the guards. Our guard play was pretty atrocious. I really like this offense for a Ken Walker. I think Ken Walker is going to have a ton of touchdowns. We were talking pre-podcast about Washington Huskies offense and how they use the run game and how they use their backs. It seems like to me that we might be using Ken Walker. He's going to get all the touches inside the 20s. He's going to get a ton of that, but Zach Charbonnet is going to get quite a bit of work in between the 20s. And I'm curious to see if they unlock Ken Walker and getting him into space in any way. Let's just get this guy going to the edges and get him a little bit of a clear path, because he is unbelievable at forcing missed tackles in the NFL. He's top 10 in the NFL for missed tackles forced. He's unbelievable. This guy had nowhere to run last year. Neither did really Zach Charbonnet. So I really think our rush offense will be a big step forward this year just because of health. We're going to have Abrams back. We drafted that. We will. And then we signed George Fant, a great swing tackle, a former Seattle Seahawk that we trained up raw. He was a raw left tackle prospect that came up through the ranks, got some time with Tom Cable back in the day with Pete Carroll. He was trained up, he went all over the NFL, but he's back at swing tackle. He can play both sides. He was playing right tackle last year for the Jets. I think he can go to any side, though, and succeed. So I really like where we're going with our offense in general. And to be honest, with JSN, I think, why can't he be every bit of what Rashee Rice was for the Kansas City Chiefs last year in the similar type of role where all those pick plays that Rashee Rice was getting with Yak attached to it, and he led the NFL in Yak. And after the last half of the NFL season going into the playoffs, he led the the whole NFL and yak. That's what Jackson Smith-Njigba needs to do better, is get that yards after catch. Last year he kind of had that wrist injury. He came in, wrist surgery, missed some time. He played all 17 games. What a tough guy, man, to hurt your wrist like that, get a surgery, and still make it for week 1 and played in every single game. So shout out to him for staying healthy. This is your year, brother. I think you're gonna get yourself quite a few targets. I just feel like he's gonna get this Rashee Rice a little bit of if he gets some flanker routes, a little Mon-Ra on the backside, if he can get some of that, if they can push Lockett inside a little bit to be the slot while DK's on the X, to get JSN on the outside a little bit. I'd love to see JSN on the outside a little bit. Come on, let's do it, Mike Macdonald. Let's get this guy. We got him in the first round. The guy is an unbelievable talent. Let's get him the football deep.
Yeah, I mean, we've been covering for fantasy football, we've been covering rookies for a while. I mean, it was no surprise to anybody that follows us that we love JSN. He was my favorite college athlete as far as football player in the last 5 years. I mean, I was a big Breece Hall guy, but Jackson is just my guy. I love him. I love him to death. That's why I got the jersey. I'm such a truther. Everybody here is like, oh, you're such a Jackson truther. He didn't, I'm like, you're a Fairweather fan. You don't even know what this guy can do.
Just wait.
We had to push. I mean, we love Pete, but we had to push Pete out just to kind of usher in something. Yeah. We got Laviska to get that yak, maybe on return.
Hey, I actually kind of like that. That's a good call too. Laviska's can do well with that kind of scheme. You're right on that. I think he could be a sneaky guy here and there.
I do. That's I think that we're gonna use Laviska a lot more in not so much in the schemes as a part of a piece, but I just think of these special plays, these special things where we get the ball out quick and let him go do his thing as a big rumbler bumbler. I just don't think he fits our system as far as like what Jackson. I don't think you can pull Tyler Lockett out and put Laviska out there and say, we are going to be fine. Like, I don't necessarily think that. I think also it's going to be pretty unique to see what comes out of camp and who our returners going to be. Screens and sweeps. There he is. Screens and sweeps. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I love that.
I get it.
I think what Jackson's going to be doing is a screens and sweeps plus. I think screens and sweeps, because a lot of the slot fade in Ryan Grubb's offense, and Jackson's going to dominate the slot fade. Okay?
He's going to get he's going to get singled up so easy, dude. It's going to be. I'm actually super excited.
But Mike Macdonald had a lot of empty. Mike Macdonald ran a lot of empty. So maybe what we do is we get Laviska as our special piece in there. And again, now you just tough to defend. You know what I mean? Okay. And then now let's say you do defend or you think you got us keyed up, RPO. Right now,
thank you.
Oh, we're going to be doing a lot of RPO. We're going to be faking a lot. And Geno is the quarterback. What do you think Geno has to do this year to end up in the Jared Goff conversation?
He has to pass for 30 touchdowns. Has to.
Can you look that up real quick? I'm going to look this up. I want to say, what was his touchdown rate last year? I don't have that on my hand. I should have that.
I'll look it up.
No, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, that's just a guess to me. I think we 20. Need to win we need 30 touchdowns out of him this year. We need the offense to grow. He needs to be better. So 2 years ago when he was under Canales, he was a better deep ball thrower. He was one of the most efficient deep ball throwers in the NFL during that year. And it came down to scheming it open. And Canales was just way better at scheming DK open versus what Shane Waldron was doing. Very bland.
Shane Waldron.
That bum Shane Waldron. Hey, but whatever. I can't blame it all on him. I honestly believe there was heavy influence by Pete in there.
Yeah.
So I guarantee there was. And that's why this is what the direction we went. And JSN, we got him in the first round for a reason. This guy is a Ferrari with a guy put in the garage, just sitting there waiting, accruing value. just waiting to get taken out on a nice sunny day, just go rip around Hawaii, down the highway. Let's get this guy some routes that he can actually dagger these guys, get him down the seams and get him deeper down the field, because he is sick when adjusting to the football. He's one of the best to do it. He's a ridiculous athlete, and I just don't understand why we haven't really given this guy 120 targets. We should be giving this guy 120 targets with that draft cap, with this offense. But who knows what we're going to be at. But I think the pace of play is going to be really high. I really do think we're going to have a higher pace of play. But we did lean 64% pass last year, even with Shane Waldron. So we were in the top 10 for pass attempts. So there is still room to grow in that. But I just feel like we're going to be so much more efficient, and we're going to have answers to adjustments by defenses that we didn't have last year. And I just feel like we got, I hate to say it, we got outcoached last year of quite a few times. And I think everything changes this year, man. I really do. I think Ryan Grubb is going to have this offense humming by week 4, week 6. We're going to be upsetting some big time teams, and we're going to be a dogfight to get out to be against at the end of the regular season next year.
Taj, I think it's Taj. I don't know how to pronounce it, but thank you for the comment, man. We really appreciate that. Give us a follow at the Flex Network 1. We got our handle down there, but really what we're trying to do, like I said, for fans, by fans. This is our first Seahawks Uncovered. We want to grow this to the biggest. I mean, the 12s, welcome 12s. Like, we have such a great fan base. Like, we deserve this. Okay. Yes. We deserve this. We've been kind of the Russell Wilson slander, got him out of town. It's been really tough. I mean, a lot of our heroes are deteriorating right in front of our eyes, and it's tough. And so we have two of the greatest minds offensively and defensively that anyone can remember, at least right now. I mean, no one can talk about like a coach on either side that is going to make such a drastic change and difference since back in the day. So what up, Taj? You said, I got you sub. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you very much. And come join the conversation with us. We're going to be trying to go live 2 times during the season. What we would love to do is do a post game instant reaction.
Little show.
Little show, 30 minutes, get on, vent your frustration or praise the team. And then Wednesday we will set up our next podcast. We will be going over the schedule, trying to find our wins and losses here. But to button up the podcast, because we've already ran too long, we're trying to get it buttoned up here, is let's not forget that Ryan Grubb was an offensive line coach. Okay.
Yes, baby.
So he built a really great offensive line. Now, he had a lot of talent. Maybe the talent differential in college is definitely there, so we can understand some of that. But the schemes that he runs with the offensive line, I think, really allow guys like Charles Cross to really benefit. I think when you keep Charles Cross just right there, standard, he's not really pulling a lot. He's not being athletic. Now, you didn't draft Charles Cross to be a run blocker. He played in an air raid offense. He played in a pass scheme. Okay. So, but go watch some film on Charles Cross. You'll notice that he hustles around. He gets the idea of how to be a pulling blocker. And I think that when we add a lot of those schemes to our offensive line, that's where we can catch a lot of these defenses off guard. Ryan Grubb specifically loves to run to the opposite side that makes sense, if that makes any sense. So let's say you've got 4 defenders, we're splitting it and it's 2 and 2, right? But let's say we have 5 on the one side and we've only got 2 on the weak side. He likes to run into the 5, but pull guys to that 5 to match up from the opposite side of the line. So the defenders may overcommit thinking they have us, but really what's happening is our pulling guards and tackles are coming to hit you. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
we're coming to run your ass over with speed.
And then we're getting to the outside and we're going to let Kenneth Walker do his thing.
Let Kenneth just fucking zoom down the fucking field, dude. That I can't. I really feel that this is a great matchup for Ken. highly efficient, explosive run game that I think is going to be brought here. And I think we're going to have a lot more motion rate in within our offense. We're going to get guys moving around, get our athletes in space. And like I said, I think we're going to be leaning towards the Miami model. And I think we got the personnel to make that happen.
Yeah, and when we say I mean, I have so much more notes, and we'll get into this because, again, I don't want to go for an hour and a half here.
Can't go for an hour, no.
But we will sometimes. But the thing about Ryan Grubb, he does use a lot of pre-snap motion. So we're going from one side to the other. That's great. Guess who also does that a lot? Miami. Miami's offense is electric. They do that probably most of anybody in the league. We didn't do that very, very much. We got into a little bit more of it as we saw that we were breaking down. But again, pre-snap motion does a lot of things to the defense, but really helps us set up what's going on and what we can see. And again, when I talk about this, scheme versatility. So it doesn't always have to be Jackson moving across the line. It could be DK moving across the line. We might pull DK from the bunch to the right. Now he's playing slot right. It's so unique that it will be impossible to really tell what we're doing. And I think that these guys want to stake their names on the schemes that they're bringing to the NFL, and watch out. We're going to surprise some people. Brandon, what is a final thing to say as we button up this podcast on our first ever Seahawks Uncovered with the Undroppables Podcast Network?
Just thank you for coming and for watching, and I appreciate all the support. Please subscribe, guys. Let's grow this thing as much as possible because, like you said, the 12s have one of the best fan bases in the NFL. We have one of the loudest, and we all know you got one of the biggest mouths around, and you're going to be using it to talk about Seattle Seahawks football for the next year on the Undroppables with the Seahawks Uncovered crew. And please check out all the other teams as well. Not just our team, support everybody. And you're going to get some in-depth analysis from fans. And we're going to get some guests on that are going to break down some stuff too as well. So that'll be exciting. And Seattle Seahawks, I think the train is moving in a great direction.
The sounder train. Specifically the sounder train.
The sounder train is a moving. And once it gets up steam, I think we're going to run over some teams in the second half of this NFL season.
Absolutely, Brandon, Adam. You can follow us at the Flex Network 1. You can follow the Undroppables at the Undroppables. And my last thing that I want to say is, obviously, I do believe that we're going to surprise people, but sometimes when people talk about surprising people, it comes from a very like a haughty, like they're being haughty, like they're
right.
They're, what do you call it? Like pretentious kind of a thing. Like, I don't think we're going to surprise people because we're so great. I think what we're going to do is we have like a bundle of talent that has just been so misused. So misused, so mistypecasted. And I think Tyler Lockett is going to have a stellar year.
Smash year.
I don't know that it's going to be surprising anymore, but I think it might surprise a lot of people. And I think Geno Smith, if Geno Smith really is going to ascend to that Jared Goff level, we have to start seeing it this year. And Geno's only 33. He's turning 34 this year. I mean, that's not incredibly young. I mean, we can get by with Geno for another 3 or 4 years. I mean, we've pretty much talked ourselves out of the QB market this next year. We all know the better QBs are coming the year after the Arch Manning year, the Nico Iamaleava year. So this year, I don't think we're even close to drafting one. I think that's why we went out and got Sam Howell. We wanted to be able to be stable, and maybe Sam Howell ascends. But it seems like in camp right now, Sam Howell ain't it.
Ain't it, dog? Hopefully he gets it better.
And that's okay. We got time a little bit with him because he's on his rookie deal. But this is Geno's team. This is Geno's time. And he could ascend to a Michael Penix level. I mean, maybe. I would love to see it. I don't know that he'll go that. I'm not seeing 5,000.
He could be Tua. Why can't he put up Tua numbers? Why?
Yeah.
Why can't he?
Well,
he can. I mean, he has every bit the physical attributes, every bit the arm talent that Tua has. I don't see much of a difference between him and a Tua. So I think a good year's coming for Geno.
A great year is coming for the Seahawks. A great year is coming for the 12s. We will see you guys next time. Thank you for following us on Seahawks Uncovered. Oh, yeah, I forgot to say one thing to everybody. Go to your local 49ers fans and tell them that they suck, okay? Because screw these